Hey everyone, welcome back to Stellar Horizons Campaign Gameplay, episode 13. We are starting off with the build phase for 2074. So let's take a look at what we're doing. The Asians. I'm going to spend $3 billion to buy 3 fuel and launch that on LV3 out to Mars. Their Mars base is doing pretty well. They've got some ore. With just one more fuel, they can upgrade their large supply station to a small spaceport. And they need to do that this turn. They've got a CV4 coming in. The Russians, not going to build anything. They're doing good at their base. And the Americans already built their small spaceport, and they've got they've got ore coming in, and they're also doing quite well on research. Everybody is one above their support limits on robotic explorers, so they're going to let everything kind of ride and see how things go from there. So those are the builds. Movement. First thing, stuff in the transfer box. So at Mars, these CVs arrive. Main asteroid belt. And out at Neptune. First up, the Asians. Let's see what they have on the board. They have a crew vehicle here. That's a crew vehicle 3. We need to roll for that. I missed that a couple of times in the last video. I think the failure rate now for crew vehicle 3s is like 1%. But I made a note of it in the Klingon subtitles, so make sure to turn those on. 36, no problem there. This crewed vehicle, again, this was at the moon. We just needed the space. And it goes to the moon to the flyby and out to the one box. Other Asian movement. Let's see what this. I think this one's a CV4. And it would be nice to see those sizes and a flag on the back, on the reverse side. CV4 does not have to roll. It's going to go land at the Mars base and unload the 2 ore. Other Asian movement. That orbiter has not arrived yet. Looks like that's all of the Asians movement except for launching an LV3 from Earth with 3 fuel. Destination Mars, that's a 95. The rocket is recovered. And those 3 fuel are immediately show up at Mars. That's all of their movement. Russians. So here, this Russian crewed vehicle is full of cargo. It's also not reserved. It's going to go from the moon to the flyby and head to the Mars 1 box. I missed this. So back, that was in the crewed vehicle 3 at the Russian base. We needed to spend 1 supply and 1 fuel to get that up and ready. What should that crewed vehicle 3 do? We've got a crewed vehicle 4 here going for exploration. I think we'll do more of the same. So we have to roll for it. Those crewed vehicle 3s are going to catch me every time. 80. It's going to head out. I guess it's not a problem for these. These guys are going to be in a fleet, but I'm going to put them adjacent. Other Russian movement. The answer is no. American movement. Let's take a look. This crewed vehicle, again, mostly full. It's got 6 cargo, could carry 7, and it's crewed vehicle 4, no rolling required. Moving out to the Mars 1 box. This American CV3 rolls 49, goes to the American base, and unloads the ore. Everybody's checking out the Comet. Rover, American rover here. I think the Americans are interested in the main asteroid belt. 88, that's fine. That looks like all the American movement. Next up, and the reason why the Americans, I think, want to continue to explore the main asteroid belt. Right now, this has a +3 ore, this is 3 ore, so that would be 6 ore. That's 1 more than they get from their Phobos-Deimos base. If this improves, then that is even better. These locations are just 5 ore locations. This is a 7 supply location. But Mars is also a 7 supply location, so they would like to get a better source of ore out here. So, exploration. Let's start off with the Shoemaker Orbiter. 2 + 1 for their tech is 3, + 2 is 5, + 2 is 7. An exploration 5 and a 1. So that is a malfunction and a successful physics marker. So first the physics. It's a 1. The engineering for the malfunction, also a 1. And the Shoemaker Orbiter is removed. American Telescope. Let's see here. I think we have been targeting for physics Sedna. That's an 8. +2 + 1. Telescope and tech makes that a 7. A 4 and a 58, so that's another successful physics marker. Exploration. Another 1. Next up for the Americans, the Orion Crewed Vehicle 2. That's still a 10, so we're just rolling. For the recall, 47, they're okay. And another physics marker. And another 1. Main asteroid belt. Let's see here. This rover is a 4, + 1 is 5. 2 makes that a 7. +2 for spectrometer, which the rover has. That's a 9. And I get a 6 and a 28. And again, I'm pretty sure the Americans are down to 21. Yes, 21 on there. So 28 is not a malfunction. That is a successful engineering for the main asteroid belt. Double checking. Yes, engineering type. And another 1. The Americans have their orbiter. It's Callisto, which has done quite well. So 4 plus 1 more for their quantum computing tech makes that a 5. They needed a spectrometer from the mixed dice, which they don't have, to get any kind of additional bonus. Okay, so we set a 5. The red die is cocked. That's a 96. And they got a 2. So a successful biology marker. And another 1. That's all the Americans' exploration. Next up for explorations, Russia. They still have an orbiter here. That's a 2. So 2 plus 2 plus 2, 6. I got a 98 and a 9. Nothing happens. Here around Earth, they do not have a telescope. They've got 2 crewed vehicles here at the comet. We'll do the Gagarin, which is a 4 plus 2 for their suit tech. Just double checking that. So that's 6 plus 3 is 7. And a recall roll. They got a 5 and a 72, so they get a physics marker. Which is a 3, so that is a depletion, earning them a political marker. The 3 goes to a 2. There is no world card to pull, but there is a life check, and that life check is 4%. $34. Okay, next one, the Leonov. So 4 plus 2 plus 2, 8. On the red die. It's a 1 and a 29. Well, the 29 should be a recall. I think they're at about a 35. Yes. So a successful physics marker, and then a biology marker, and the CV3 is going to flip. They got a 1 for the physics, 2 for biology. That crewed vehicle needs to flip over. Russians. Rover at EO. That is an 11. So it's an automatic physics marker. And 1 on the red die will get them. They did not get the 1. 98 is no malfunction. So their physics marker. Again, this is a mission for the Russians, but they only got a 2. No other Russian exploration. Next up, Asians. They've got their telescope. The Asians are going to do something a little different this time. They are going to target Titan. It's a biology type. 6, halved down to 3. Plus 1 for their telescope is a 4. So they'd be doing 5. They'd be rolling for 5 or less if they were looking for physics, but they're going to go for the 4 or less and do biology. They got a 5 and a 20. Well, 20 is a malfunction. 5 is a failure. So that telescope comes off. And they get an engineering marker. 2. What else? Nothing here at Mars. And the Asians don't have any other explorations right now. Okay, next up would be remote mining. And I don't think we have any of that this turn. Nope. Trade and base construction phase. So first up would be trade. There is no trade. Build at bases. The Americans don't need to build anything, but the Russians will expend 3 ore and 3 supplies to get a small spaceport. Okay, so that just leaves the Russians with 1 ore and 1 fuel. They're going to need to send some supplies to Mars if they want to actually be able to resupply ships and more fuel, but they've got the fuel coming. Actually, they've got fuel and supplies coming in right now. 2 supplies anyway. The Asians now. So, yeah, they've got a crewed vehicle 4 that just arrived, and so they're going to expend 3 ore and 3 supply for the same thing and get a small spaceport. Okay, so Mars is, yeah, everybody's got a spaceport now, and those small spaceports allow, they say build and service max, so the build applies to CV2, service up to CV5. What's also included in that, they can now also, everyone can build robotic explorers from Mars and launch them. Those robotic explorers would need launch vehicles, but they can build all 4 sizes of launch vehicles at Mars as well. So they can start things off from Mars if they choose to, and we'll see what happens there. Is there anything else in the base? Nope. So that's the end of the turn. Moving on to build phase of 2075. Okay, in the build phase, the Asians building nothing. The Russians, sorry about the glare here. Orbiter and a probe. They're going to send that out to Saturn, to the moon of Saturn, the Mimas, and try to pick up that mission. And the Americans are not going to build anything either. They're sitting on 10 billion, but they're doing good. Let's do transfer box movement. So all of these guys arrive at Mars. Oh, okay. I'm always catching myself here. The Asians want to flip that CV4. Ready that, so they are going to spend a fuel and a supply. Okay, everybody arrived there. Their orbiter arrives at the main asteroid belt. And finally, this orbiter and probe arrive at Neptune. They've got a mission here at Triton. Asian movement. The crewed vehicle 4, what the Asians want is biology research. They need a lot more biology points than what they've got right now. I think the best thing that they can actually do is send this crewed vehicle back to Earth, in the flyby box 1, and just do exploration. There's still 1 more depletion, so that's still a valid biology research location. Their crewed vehicle 3 needs to roll 30, so it arrives at the base and unloads that fuel. Asian Orbiter at the main asteroid belt is heading out to Ceres, because that's a biology research location. That is a, ooh, oh boy, an 8. That's okay. There's 00 and a cocked die. The orbiter is going to move, fly by to Ceres, and that is going to be a pretty good place for them to hopefully pick up some biology. Their probe wants to head to Triton. Well, it's an orbiter carrying a probe. So that movement, roll. So 16. So they will fly by to Triton and be there. Next up, that's all of the Asians movement. Russian movement. Well, the Russian CV4 is going to stay there, but this one is a CV3, so it needs to roll 46, and it's going to return to the Russian base on Mars. This Russian is a CV4, also going to the base and unloading 4 fuel and 2 supplies. Sorry. There's a little better camera work, but not much. That looks like, oh, and the Russians are going to launch this orbiter and probe. They're actually going to launch it on the LV4. So they're going to risk that launch vehicle. They got a 75, so the launch vehicle is recovered. So the destination is Saturn. Distance is 7. Their speed puts it at 6 years, and they've launched it on an LV4, so that gives them a 3-year bonus. So this orbiter and probe go into the, what do we say, 3 box. It's Saturn. That's all of the Russian movement. American movement. Well, the Americans, they've got just about all of the physics research that they need to get the next tech that they're interested in. They could, maybe it makes sense to keep the CV2 there, but I think we're just gonna mix it up a little bit and send the CV2 out to the main asteroid belt. So it's going to leave the comet, come around to the flyby. Oh, and of course we need to roll movement. 61. And the distance, Mars is a 1, main asteroid belt is 3. So the distance is 2, so it's going to take them 2 years to get out there. But they're going to go for that. That's all of the movement. Right? Yes. Oh, nope. Here's one. Crewed Vehicle 4 on Mars. And now I'm confused. There's a Crewed Vehicle 3 there at a... When did this one get there? I'm going to have to stop and check, sorry. No, it was 1 turn ahead of the other one, so it arrived there last turn and unloaded. Okay, so that crewed vehicle 3, we'll send it. Of course, it needs to roll. We'll send it to the Comet 71, and we'll send it out to the Comet. And that crewed vehicle 4 here does not need to roll. Goes to the American base and unloads 4 ore and 2 fuel. Oh, that was okay. So we can see now that there's just piles of stuff over here that I'm having to jam in. And the Americans have 5 ore. They'll use that crewed vehicle 4 that just arrived at Mars, send it out to the Yosemite base, and grab that ore. Other movement? The answer is no. Explorations, starting with the Americans. They lost their Venus orbiter last turn, or maybe the turn before. The telescope. So we're targeting Sedna. That's an 8. Halved to 4, plus 2, plus 1. A 64 and a 3. So that is a successful physics exploration and no malfunction. And it's a 1. Crewed vehicle 3 at the asteroid 4 plus 2 is 6 plus 2 is 8. Got a 5 and a 19. So that is, it's going to flip and earn them the physics for the Comet and biology. Physics is a 2. And biology is a 2. Crewed vehicle 4 is not exploring. Rover here, main asteroid belt. 5 plus 2 plus 2, 9. A 98 and a 4, so that is a successful engineering exploration. And it's a 2. That was that American rover. They've got their orbiter here. We're looking at 3, 1 for the orbiter plus 1 for robotic exploration tech, 4, 5. And that's a 4 and a 32. So a successful biology marker, no malfunction. And it was a 1, biology. So they've done that, and that's all of the Americans' exploration. Next up, the Russians. Well, they still have their orbiter at Venus. 2 plus 2 plus 2 looks like a 6. I got a 23 and a 7, so that's a malfunction. Double check ourselves. Yeah. Their malfunction is 27 and lower. So they're going to get an engineering and no physics. Right? I think that was a 7. Engineering. Sorry, I went for a hike today. I'm a little lagged. Engineer, let's see here, Comet CV4. So that is a 6 for the crewed vehicle plus 2 more for the Comet. 8. I got a 1 and an 85, so that is a successful physics exploration. And I got a 2. Russians have the rover at EO. We're still looking at an 11. So an automatic physics marker and 75 on the malfunction check, so they're good. And they have gotten lucky. They got a 5. So that is a depletion, but they also have that mission for EO. So they're going to earn 2 political markers. 1 for the depletion, 1 for the, what's EO? It's a 7. So EO is reduced to a 6. This does not have a spectrometer, so they'll only get 1 world card. And that is going to be the somewhat boring cratered surface, but it does provide a +2 for rovers, so they'll definitely keep it. And the life check is going to be a 4%. So 4% roll on the life. 95. No signs of life. They have earned their EO mission, which is worth 4 victory points. I'll pull a new mission. I think they had this one before and got rid of it. Pluto. Okay. That looks like all of the Russians' exploration. Asians, they don't have anything. Venus, no telescope, nothing here. So their first one is this orbiter that they've got at Ceres. It's a 3 plus 2 is 5 plus 2 more for the spectrometer makes that a 7. (61) and a 2, so that is a successful biology. And they've gotten 3 points. That's a depletion. So another political marker. Ceres is being reduced down to a 1. That does have a spectrometer. So they're pulling 2 world cards. Well, this changes things up. Okay. So, well, not really. Okay. So Ceres is an icy dwarf planet. You can see these precious minerals only apply to rocky, but that's a really good number for the ore. C-class asteroid is not really any better. So I think they're going to stick with the subterranean water. And there's a life check, which is 5% on printed, plus the card says another 5%, so 10%. That's a 42. Next up for the Asians, this probe at Neptune, or Triton. So they're going to drop the probe, that's a 9, plus the 7 makes that a 16. There's no malfunction check. So it's a 16, so they automatically get 1 physics marker, and we will roll just the red die. They got a 10. So they only get the 1 physics marker. And they got a 2. So they did not complete their mission, but they didn't have to do the malfunction check. Okay, that's all of the exploration. Remote mining, there isn't any. Just scanning. No remote mining going on. Trade and base construction phase, no trading. Base construction, I think everybody is pretty good, although I imagine the Americans are probably going to build a settlement, but we're only halfway through the decade, so I think they're going to wait on that. Asians are also thinking about building a settlement, and they're going to wait. The Americans may go ahead and send a CV-4 loaded up with supplies to build a base in the asteroid belt. So we'll give them a few more turns to consider that. It's a 2-year trip from Mars. They would need their CV-4 and their CV-3. The CV-4 going to take 6 supplies. Yeah, so they would need 1 more unit of something. But the CV-3 could bring some stuff, and they could set up a small mining station out in the asteroid belt and take advantage of the production. So I think that turn is over, and we are going to move on to the build phase for 2076. Okay, for the builds in 2076, Asians, again, nothing. Russians, going to build an orbiter to send back to Venus. They've only got 3 billion left. The Americans building an orbiter with a probe. They've got this Jupiter mission that they really haven't been doing anything with. They keep on getting sidetracked, but they've got radiation shielding now, so plus their malfunction rate's really low, so that seems like a good time to go ahead and try to squeeze that in. So that's all the builds. Also, didn't forget, I almost did, Asians are going to spend a fuel and a supply to ready this crewed vehicle 3, and the Russians are doing the same for their crewed vehicle 3, a fuel and a supply. Okay, movements in the transfer boxes. That guy arrives at Earth. Nobody's actually headed to Mars right now. That one arrives, this orbiter moves along, and nobody there. So that's all the transfer box movement. Okay, Asians. They've got the crewed vehicle 4 here at Earth. Just going to move into Earth orbit, and it does not need to roll. Over here, they've got a crewed vehicle 3. I think they're going to do the same thing. They're going to head back to Earth. So they got to roll. $70, no problem. Crewed vehicle 3 takes off, goes to the flyby box in the 1 box. So we saw the Russians do this last decade. Just do a bunch of crewed vehicle experiments in Earth orbit, working on the biology. Other Asian movement. The answer is no. Russians. Okay, well, the Russians have no, that's an American. Okay, the Russians have a crewed vehicle 3 and 4 here at Mars. They do not have the resources at Mars to go build a base or haul stuff out to the asteroid belt. So there are options in the Mars system, but they don't have a base here. So they can come out here and mine. Ore is the best thing, because that's a 5, but they could go for fuel or supplies as well. Let's see what their exploration numbers. Let's do the exploration. $38 for the movement. Or maybe they'll do 1 and 1. Okay, so they're going to move him to there. The crewed vehicle 4 is going to move out to Phobos and Deimos, and we'll do some mining. And the Russian movement, the answer is no. So the Americans, the Russians do have a launch. Orbiter from Earth on an LV-3. 58, the rocket is recovered, and that orbiter goes to the Venus 1 box. Okay, now the Americans. That's a CV-3, needs to return to Mars to get resupplied. 76, so it's going to make it to the base. That crewed vehicle 4 is going to head out to the comet. And well, here's the, I guess this is the decision point instead of that move. Okay, we're in 2076. If they head to the main asteroid belt, they'll be in the 2 box now. The 1 box, they arrive in this year, so they would need they're going to go ahead and head out that way with the supplies. So Americans are going to load up 7 supplies on this CV-4. be instead going to the main asteroid belt. And we'll just hope that we have a better sense of where we want to build that base. It's just going to be a small mining station, but there's still 6. The small mining station doesn't cost very much. 1 supply, 1 ore. But it's the 6 supplies that they have to use to build the base. And that's going to put them over their base limit. So it's going to cost them an extra $4 billion. So it may not be the best thing, but they can, I'm just thinking it over. They don't necessarily have to build the base, but when they get there, if we're not sure, they can wait till the last year. And then this American CV3 can follow, and it will arrive in 2079 with the ore that the base is going to need to actually build a mining station. Okay, we'll see how that plays out. Any other American movement? No. Exploration. American telescope at Earth, targeting Sedna out at the scattered disk. That's a 4, 5, 6, 7. That's a 9, and they have gotten a 0, 2. So that telescope is done engineering. Oh, it's a 2. And I forgot, with the Americans, they did have the orbiter and probe on Earth that they needed to launch. So let's take care of that. It's launching on an LV-4. That recovery is a 40, so the rocket is recovered. Distance to Jupiter from Earth is 5. Time to travel 4. They get a 3-year bonus for an LV-4. So it is just going to be 1 year out. And that telescope just failed. The Americans don't have anything here at Mars now. The Mars Prospector rover at the asteroid belt. 4 + 1 is 5. +2 + 2 is a 9. A 7 and an 87. So in engineering, which is a 3, which is what they're looking for, these depletions. Of course, that earns them another political marker. Asteroid belt is going to go from a 2 to a 1. We're going to pull some world cards. And that's a spectrometer, so there's 2 of them. Another precious metals, which, wow, okay. Both of them are precious metals. So, if they're interested in ore, this is absolutely the place to do it. That'll be 6 + 3 is a 9. So they're going to swap that out. And I shuffle those all the time. There's a chance for life, 3%. That's an 11, no life. Well, now I think the Americans are feeling pretty good about putting down a base on the main asteroid belt, and they can let the Yosemite base at Phobos Deimos go away whenever they want. What other exploration? So that was that rover. They still have this orbiter looking at 3, 4, 5. They got a 6 and a 55. No malfunction, but no exploration. That's all of the Americans' exploration. Next up, the Russians. Russians, nope, that orbiter has not arrived. They've got 2 crewed vehicles here, though, at the Comet. Let's do the CV-4 first. So 4 plus 2 plus 2, it's an 8. They got the 8 and a 47, so no recall. That's a successful physics. And they got a 2. Next up, another 8 with the crewed vehicle 3. They got a 9 and 88, so not a successful exploration. That's going to mine, but we'll take care of that after exploration. Other Russian exploration. This rover, 4 plus 6 is 10, but plus 2 for the rover on the cratered surface. So that's a 12. So that's an automatic physics. And we rolled the red die. 2 or less gets them a second marker, and they got it. And a 93, no malfunction. So they're pulling 2 physics markers. And they got a 1 and a 5. So that is another depletion. Earns them a political marker. That's 6. It's going down to a 5. There is no spectrometer there. The world card pulled was helium-3. Only applies to gas giants. So they keep that world card, the life check, 4%. $21. No life. There is no other Russian exploration. Asians. Looks like they've got their crewed vehicle in Earth orbit. So that's going to be a 6 plus 2 is 8 plus 1 is 9. Of course, they rolled a 10 and a 99. No recall, no biology marker. Other Asian. This orbiter, 3 plus 1 plus 2, so that's a 6. Got a 3 and a 13, So they get the biology marker, and the orbiter is malfunctioning. I got a 3 on the biology, so that's going to be a depletion, and that'll be the end of exploration at Ceres. And they got a 3 on the engineering. Well, the depletion earns them a political marker. Sorry, where are we here at Ceres? The 1 goes down to a 0. I'll pull 2 world cards. Shuffling them up again. Okay. It's an S-class asteroid and ridged terrain. Well, they both, let's see here. They both apply. Minimal gravity. Ceres has minimal gravity. Rocky or icy. It's icy. But compared to the existing subterranean water, I don't think there's anything about that that makes them want to change that out. So they'll leave that. Life check again is 10%. I got a 95, no life. And the orbiter is removed. So Ceres is just going to be that, a great place for supplies. It's also a good place to set up a, well, it's not as good as Mars, so I was just going to say a research base. What's next for exploration for the Asians? Well, they still have their orbiter at Triton, so a 1 and 7. So we're looking at an 8 or less. I got a 1 and a 60, so that is a success. That's a physics. Which is a 1. And that's all the explorations. Remote mining. I think the Russians were going to do one. And I'm just trying to decide. They've already got a base that mines ore on the moon. Or I'm sorry, the near-Earth asteroids. So although they need everything, the one that this place... Ah, I forgot. Okay. Let's see here. Yeah, they've still got... I'm sorry. I was just remembering the Russians, although they were hot and heavy in one of the biology research last time, and they built that small research station, I think they're going to want to spend an ore and a supply this time and build a small mining station here so that they can take advantage of mining supplies along with everyone else on Mars. They're going to go ahead and just go for supplies here. It's not a great source, but so 3 on the red, 3 or lower on the red die gets them a second supply. I got a 10, a 74. Well, it's 1 supply, and they do not get flipped. Put put a supply there for them. That's all of the remote mining. They do need a supply. They need to hold on to the supply. I was just looking here. So now base trade and base construction. Well, there's no trade. Base construction. The Americans still going to, well, they need one more supply if they're going to build a settlement. They'll have to send it from Earth. I didn't even go grab that ore. And they're not going to have time to do that. The Russians need to earmark that. So some people need to send a little bit of stuff. The Asians are actually pretty good for building a settlement, but they're going to, again, I think they're only going to build one. So they'll hold off till the end of the decade. So nobody's going to build anything right now. And we'll make sure that everybody's got just a little bit of money so they can send another shipment to Mars for whatever they need. All right, well, we're at an hour. We are finishing 2076, and catch you in the next video. Thanks for watching.